Alright, let's do the review. We're probably stuck anyway. That's a good time to do the review. Alright, um, this game, Rune, this is probably one of the more obscure PC games. It's totally forgotten. Not too many people know about this. I know about it because I was a big gaming fan. I was a big PC gamer back in the late 90s. I had a gaming PC back then. Um, and I played Unreal Tournament and everything, and uh, so yeah, I knew about this game. And I played the demo of it, and I loved it back in the day. And then I got the full version, and it was terrible. I literally, I couldn't get like more than like maybe 30 minutes into the game, maybe 40 minutes, something like that. It wasn't much. Um, so this game is a hack and slash action game. It kind of looks like it might be like an archaic Dark Souls, but it actually has more in common with games like Ninja Gaiden or God of War or Devil May Cry than it does with like Dark Souls, because it's a pure action game. There's no level progression at all, and you just hack and slash things. Hold on one second, let me just turn down the volume for the review. Now, it has kind of an interesting control scheme. Another game that not too many people played is a game called Heavy Metal Fact 2, which this game is very similar to. And these games came out around the same time. So you use the WASD keys and the right mouse to control the game. So you can move forward and back, and you can strafe left and right, and you can aim. So it's the controls are exactly the same as an FPS game, but there is no shooting in this game. I mean, you can throw your weapon like that, but you don't even use that ability that much. It is a pure hack and slash game. Um, the controls are surprisingly accurate, like compared to like a conventional hack and slash action game like Devil May Cry or something like that. It is it doesn't need a lock-on system, unlike, any of those games. Either being auto lock or a manual lock, because you have full control over where you're aiming at. So it's kind of interesting in that sense, and you never have any camera angle issues. So like throughout this entire game, it's in the third person, and especially back then, they had third person games were notorious for their bad camera. But in a game like this and Heavy Metal Fact 2, you never have that problem because you have full control over the camera, and it's always glued to his back. But here's the thing, while it solves all those problems, in a way, it's actually what limits the game too, because there is very little strategy involved in playing this game. Um, you basically run in, swing your sword, swing your axe. You have a couple of different weapons. Back off. When they swing theirs, you can block if you have a shield, and rinse and repeat, and that's it. And there isn't a whole lot of skill involved in that. The game can be challenging, sure, but like if you can't beat something, it's really just a matter of finding health, finding some lizards to eat, and then, just doing the same thing over again, just trying to avoid the hits. But the main problem is that it's not fun. Now, here's the thing, like, the combat is not fun, I should say. So while it is more accurate, a hack and slash game doesn't need to be like super accurate like an FPS game needs to be, because you're not shooting anything. Like, as long as you just attack in the general direction as the enemy is in, that's really all you need. So that's why games like Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry, they're fine the way they are with an auto lock system, um, and Dark Souls has like a manual lock system. They're fine like that. So this game, the combat is just click, 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 and it's so unsatisfying. It doesn't feel good. And that is the most important thing in an action game. if you can get the combat right, if just controlling your character, moving him around feels good, and the combat feels good, you already have like maybe 75, 80, 85% of the game right there. And in this game, it's not like it's horrible, but it's not fun. Combat's just not enjoyable. Um, the other thing that really hurts this game is the beginning of the game is horrible, like I said before. So this game had a big problem where the beginning of the game it consists of just fighting a lot of really small enemies, like little creatures, and it's not fun. It kind of betrays the whole point of this game. Like the reason why I liked the demo was because the demo takes place near the end of the game, and in the end of the game, where I am right now, near the end, you're fighting the cooler enemies, the Vikings and the larger wolves and other creatures that are large and look cool. But in the beginning of the game, it's all just little crap. And the other thing that makes the beginning of the game really crappy is the level design. You're just like in caves all the time. It's so boring and dark. And this is using the Unreal Engine, so like for the time it looked good, but from an artistic point of view, the beginning of the game just looks really bad. It looks really bland. Now, as the game goes on, it gets better with the level design. As you can see, like this place looks okay, and the enemies become better. And that's really what like that's part of what makes a hack and slash game interesting. You need to have excellent environments, great level design, and really interesting enemy design too. Now, if I compare it to Dark Souls, for example, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, it doesn't really matter. What part of what makes those games so amazing is, yes, the combat, but also the level design and the enemy design. So in those games, you have incredible, like when you see some, like there have been times in Dark Souls where I just couldn't believe it. What the hell? Why is he walking on water? Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Um, because like I was blown away by hold on. I was blown away by the environments and the cool vistas and things like that. Whereas in this game, yeah, the environments are nothing to really write home about. Both in terms of level architecture and also the level design itself is pretty shit. The other thing that makes the level design shit is that you get kind of what I'm having an issue with right now, is that you kind of get stuck, and you don't know what to do, you don't know where you're supposed to go, and this happens often. This obtuseness, and I've never had this problem in any other hack and slash game, like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden. There's never a point where like I'm stuck. Whereas in this game, yeah, it happens quite often. Most of the time I was able to get through it, but yeah, there's that one time when I had to use a walkthrough, and I feel like they do that on purpose just to artificially make the game longer than it actually is, and that's not good. So like I was saying, the enemy design is also another big thing. So another cool thing about Dark Souls and Devil May Cry is the look of the enemies, how the enemies look, how they fight. The aesthetic that matters so much. In this game, it's kind of a mixed bag. The Vikings look cool, but in the beginning of the game, like the first 2/3 of the game, the enemies are small little creatures. They are uninspired, and then after that, you're fighting skeletons and zombies for way too long, much longer than you should. Um, and uh, and you're doing that for most of the time, and I think a lot of people would just give up on the game at that point. I don't know why they didn't just make the whole game like this, where you're fighting, the cooler enemies, the Vikings and stuff, because they're what makes this game at least like somewhat interesting. So the enemy design is, like I said, it's not total garbage. I do like the Vikings. I do like the big wolves, but that's about it. And even in terms of them, like even there's not a lot of variety there. So it sounds like I've been bashing the game a lot. There are some other things I like about the voice acting is actually kind of unintentionally hilarious, or maybe it was intentionally hilarious. I don't know, but I love it. Like it's they'll say stuff like "It's that boy Ragnar," and stuff like that. That's hilarious. That's funny, and like hearing the cutscenes, the voice acting so over the top, like it's bad in a Shenmue kind of bad, so that it's like it's so bad it's good. So I mean, don't expect don't expect like Metal Gear Solid quality story here, but at least the voice acting is like endearing in the sense that it's so bad it's good. So that's kind of neat. Unfortunately, again, you don't hear all that cool and funny banter until you get to the Vikings, and that's in the last third of the game. Um, yeah, I mean that pretty much covers it. Like, I mean, you also get before I forget, you do get these kind of like rune powers. Like this one's freeze. Um, it's sometimes it's cool. Sometimes you'll get like kind of cool powers. I don't know exactly what dictates what you get. Because sometimes you get some cool ones like vampire. I don't know if there's a way to actually select it. I've just been using whatever is selected right now. Maybe I'm playing the game wrong. I don't know, but the one problem that does exist is that, see, I just used the rune power and I can't use again. So what you end up doing is you end up not using the rune power that much. You save it a lot because you're saving it for like some tough enemies, and then you just end up not using it at all because what's why wouldn't you save it, So even though it has like some cool rune powers, you just end up not using it too much. Or here's one cool thing, not me dying there, but you can pick up enemy weapons and stuff like that. So you'd get like some different weapons, like these big maces and stuff like that. Really, you gotta wait until you get to the Viking area until you get the cool weapons. So you can pick up some different weapons, but honestly, I never really noticed that big of a difference with the weapons. I mean, I guess some enemies are more vulnerable against some weapons than others. But it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's the most effective weapon in any given situation. So you just end up kind of using one weapon the whole time and not really caring too much about the weapon variety. You don't get a different attack set with different weapons. So it's always the same attack set. Unlike in like Devil May Cry or something like that. So gives you kind of the veneer of variety and depth, but in the end, it's still pretty shallow when it comes to combat. As you can hear, there's really no music. I mean, there's music sometimes, but it's just okay, Not really bad or good, but, it's there. It's alright. And I like the Viking theme. The graphics, like I said, in the beginning, like, it's using the Unreal Tournament engine. And at the time it looked great, but the artwork in the beginning of the game is not great. But near the end of the game, like where I am now, it gets better. It doesn't look, if I compare it to another game, Heavy Metal Fact 2, it doesn't look as good as that game, because that game uses the more advanced Quake 3 engine. But it looks alright. And that's, yeah, I mean, like, it's It's not some game I would recommend to anyone else. I just wanted to beat this game because I had it for so long and I never beat it, and I always wanted to. So it was mostly just for my own satisfaction. If you're desperate for a Viking hack and slash game, I don't know. Maybe the new God of War is what you should play. But aside from that, maybe this might be kind of interesting. Other than that, your time is probably better spent on other games. And that's all I really have to say.